They also perform horrible experiments on the American population in cooperation with the illegal reptilians. The reptilians come from 6-dimensional space and have been on Earth for a very long time. After the world with the Galactic Federation of reptilians were banished underground, there they waited and plotted to take over the world.
Welcome to UFO in the Know. I'm here with my co-host, John Barton Hobbs. Tonight we're going to go over some slides I made, just covering some of the material that I've read and some of the stuff that he's read or heard, or things he's seen that kind of convince us that. So bottom line claim that we're going to make here, or support this claim, that if it is in fact true, that some entity in the United States government or associated with them, or possibly has some higher authority over the regular federal government, we don't know, has captured craft and bodies from the non-human intelligence, or NHI, and also I didn't finish this here, but I'm going to say a reverse engineered craft or other tech has been made. So that's, I feel like with everything I've heard and read, that is true. And I think once you accept that is true, or really start to because the first time I heard it, I mentioned somebody at work mentioned it to me at lunch. It sounds crazy at first. You're just like, yeah, right, okay, right. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go about my day and just do my normal shit. I don't give a fuck. And like, I didn't start to click with me until a little bit later on. I remember when my wife was pregnant, and we would just kind of sit in bed together and watch TV and stuff. And I started watching UFO Witness with Ben Hansen that I really liked a lot, and that started to get me thinking. I was like, when I was a kid, I saw something really weird too. And I feel like that's really been eating at me. Like, what is that? What the fuck is that? Because once you see something like that, you're kind of consumed with it, trying to figure out what the fuck it was. And what I saw was a giant light that filled my entire basement room when I was a teenager. I was completely sober, completely awake, and a giant light filled my entire bedroom that only had one window that was like up on the higher up, because it was in the basement. I ran out there. Of course, I didn't see anything. There's nothing there. But also, when I was much younger, this is like third grade, second grade, I was terrified that something was coming in my room. Something was coming in there messing with me. I had terrible insomnia, like as a third grader, as a second grader. I was the only kid going to school with bags under my eyes every day, and they were just like, what's going on with you at home? And I was just terrified of something. And then I remember when this may have been third or fourth grade, I probably told you this story already, but I woke up and I did see what I thought was a big head, a little person with a big head, a typical alien. But it was dark. It was completely dark. I just saw a shadow, and I had a TV on the other side of my bed, kind of right here. And I get up, lean over, touch the TV. It's an old tube TV, so it takes a second to light up. It just goes bzzz. By the time it lights up, there's nothing there. So I'm just like, okay, all right. And I was about to shit myself. But like, I think I called my parents in there, just like, it's nothing, there's nothing here, go to sleep. And I still didn't really go to sleep. I think I heard something walking at one point, and I swear to God, I heard somebody walking. And I guess I didn't see anybody there, but I definitely felt like something was up with that. Something was there, and there was something to that. And I definitely saw the bright ass light come in my room, and so it kind of, it's been eating at me to, like, this is what I need to figure out. Like, I went to work at NASA, but I felt like what are we doing here? Just looking at like a bunch of rocks and stuff. Well, if the government has this, shouldn't we be studying that? Like, if that's really true, if that's what we have. Like, but no, NASA doesn't.
If the government has them, if the government has these craft and we're able to take them to these faraway places and we're still funding NASA, that would be like the crime of, of an eon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like if we have the capability of flying them, like immediately, if you gave me one of these craft and I could make it go up, down, left, or right, I'm taking it up into space, plain and simple.
Right.
I'm gonna go look at this stuff that I want to go look at. Sorry, hopefully we got enough fuel. There are people out there that probably in this research field who are dumb enough to do that too. Because that's what you want to do with it immediately. Like, I feel like NASA might be. I hate to say they're a waste of money because if this stuff is real, they're a waste of money. Like, if we have this stuff in our possession, they're kind of a waste of money because we should be putting more resources at this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've noticed something particular about the NASA missions. I feel like everything is really being done to support the military. Like, NASA's trying to figure out how to keep humans in space without them becoming really unhealthy, because the gravity and the radiation, it's really hard on your body, and you can't be exposed to that much radiation. You have a limit, and so they're trying to figure out how do we keep humans safely in space. And that's a problem. Even if there is like a secret space program and they have this shit, maybe they still need to figure out, well, how do we keep people in space, let them live there and not have them just totally, their bodies fall apart. And like there's other things too, like the gateway to the moon mission, that could very well be used by the DoD if they decide to go to the moon, or if they haven't already gone to the moon, But I don't know. I guess if they have something on the moon, they wouldn't want us to know. But I'm trying to think of some other examples, like the telescopes. Yeah, that's something that if they found something of interest that maybe could benefit the military. But I feel like there's probably maybe there's NASA's just doing the research, just kind of look what's out there. And I know another proposed project was a deep space communication system, so people could send optical communications from if you go far out in space. And so that could very well be used by the DoD too, or they could just totally just say, we're going to use this, guys, thanks. And
yeah,
so I feel like
kind of on it.
I feel like it's not a total waste. Like, they're doing things that do need to be done if you're going to have a people living in and working in space full time. They're like working on those problems. And that's something that the DoD or the shadow government or whoever would need to know. So I feel like it's not.
I don't know, man.
It's not a total waste, but it is kind of like. I know it's really too like I never went to private school. I was never wealthy at all, really, and so I feel like a lot of these people like come from a place of arrogance. And it's just like, yeah, we know what to study. This UFO stuff. Like, one time I mentioned UFOs one time in a work stand-up meeting, what we were doing, and my boss had told me I could just experiment with the AI learning tools. And so I started looking at some stuff that was like looking at the UFO sightings and trying to make sense of the data of the UFO sighting database they had somewhere, and I mentioned it, and they just kind of gave me this look like I'm this dumbest person on the planet, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm not actually studying UFOs. I'm actually studying the AI learning tools, but it's just for fun. And they're like, yeah, we don't talk about that stuff here. Like that's kind of how I felt. But there's only one guy, so luckily there was one guy, the one guy that was my coworker that did flat out accuse the government of having UFOs. So that's another thing that really sparked my interest too, and like made me start to like. At first, I didn't take him seriously, but as
I haven't got to watch that Tim Burchett video yet, but in that Tim Burchett video, I think it's a lot like what Lou Elizondo had said. A lot more has been said than we think has been said, and I think when we watch that, a lot is going to come out that is unintentional and probably not classified, but stuff that you can help you put the pieces together, kind of unredact the narrative, you know what I'm saying? And I personally don't know how I feel about like NASA and our involvement in space. Like I want to be protected from asteroids.
right, yeah,
If
that's
one is
another
going
one
to
they
smash into us and
mentioned.
kill us
Yeah.
all, like, are we going to be able to do anything about it, or are we all just going to
Hmm.
freak out? There's a few things they do that are okay, but what I'm saying is, if they have alien spacecraft, um, then NASA's a complete waste of money. Because we could be putting all the money that we have toward UFOs or figuring out where these things came from.
Yeah, I mean,
And
another point to
they're hiding it. They're hiding science from the rest of us. You know what I mean?
yeah, if we
Like,
had those things, we wouldn't need rockets. We wouldn't need to be sending people to space with rockets anymore. It'd be a waste. You're right. Yeah, it's a huge waste.
yeah. And the crazy thing is from what I gather is that at least what I feel like is at least some of this technology is in private hands, right? It's in
Mm-hmm.
private hands, or it's at least being controlled by private companies. And the fact that they'd even have this stuff and haven't made any just amazing scientific breakthroughs, because we haven't really made any amazing scientific breakthroughs. We've shrunk our phones down and put screens on them, and we've made faster computers. I feel like we could have gotten here without alien technology. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
completely feel like we would have gotten here without it. The only thing that's happened since I was a kid really is computers got faster, storage space got bigger, screens got smaller, and the internet it became more widely used.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like we've made any advancements in propulsion. Not really. We're still using the same type of jets as when I was a kid. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
still using the same wing shapes and flight control surfaces. We're
Mm-hmm.
not manipulating gravity any different than we would with an electromagnet or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing crazy that we've developed. It's
Yeah.
just it seems like whoever has these, if they haven't figured this out by now, that they're wasting this technology by not allowing public to put their minds together and figure out how it works. There's a lot of people that aren't. Most people aren't allowed into these programs to study this stuff. If you know,
Right.
so most people. So you're singling out 99.99% of the population or more that even in this field of study, they could be working towards figuring out how this shit works.
Yeah, we could
So
have a whole new renaissance of just amazing
yes,
technology that could benefit everybody.
yeah, but they want to hold it in like either they're holding it for one of two reasons, right? Like either because they want to keep the technology for themselves so they can make money off of it one day, or because the government told them they have to keep it completely secret. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the private entities. Because otherwise, if you're not making money off of it and you're spending all this money to research it, or any money to research it, or just
Mm-hmm.
money to keep it secret. You know what I mean? And store it and keep it secret. If you're spending money on that, you're not making any return value. There's no return value from it. You
Mm-hmm.
might be getting grants from the government, and that may be where we need to look and see who's getting grants from the government for stuff and isn't popping up with any research. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Who's not popping up with a return value for the government?
Right.
Even the people who got grant money to study if pigeons or birds had better sex on cocaine, even they came back with, information on their study. So I feel
Yeah.
like if you're if you're getting money from the government for something, you've got to return some results, and if they're not returning any results and they're still continuing to receive money for this stuff, that's the only reason I could expect for a company to reasonably keep it secret this long without trying to outsource it and find a way to figure out what to do with it. You know what I mean? Doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Well, that's another, I guess, claim that's been made by Colonel Corso in his book, The Day After Roswell, that I didn't mention, which was he claims that he and other military personnel have dispersed some of this technology to various companies like Bell Labs and Lockheed and things like that. And like it's like I guess the further claim is too that the transistor that we had that makes our computers faster and the integrated circuit, all this computer technology was alien stuff, which I don't know. I don't know how I
So
feel
here's
about it.
why I don't believe that, though. I don't believe that because, all right, so all this alien technology, right, that we apparently have reverse engineered or apparently have figured out. Here's the problem with that. You're not gonna you take a car, correct? And you give it to somebody in the 1700s. They have no idea what they're looking at. They don't know what fuel is. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know that something can fuel something to do something other than to burn. They're
Yeah.
not going to if they figure out something on that car, they have to know how other parts of it work. And I think that may apply to us. Like if we only figured out the transistor, or we only figured out an integrated circuit board, um, I don't think I don't think we would have been stuck so far behind on everything else. I feel like a lot of the things like integrated circuits and transistors have been around before Roswell. Like
Yeah, there
they've been around.
were transistors. They're saying that it's not a totally new transistor. It's a tiny transistor. That's the difference, I guess. Because I
Yeah, but
guess
see,
Bell
everything
Labs
that we've
was
made,
already making one.
that we've made has shrunk over the years.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gotten
everything
smaller and
everything that
smaller.
we have has shrunk. Yeah, so I don't see that being as like an alien advancement. I think that that's a natural advancement of ours.
Hmm.
Our TVs got thinner, and bigger. Our cell phones developed. We shrunk a screen down to the size that we can put it on a phone. We've had these size
Hmm.
screens for a long time, like since before I was a kid. But then you shrunk it down flat because we've got the circuit board and all the parts in here are smaller. You know,
Hmm.
we've uh we've become more precise in our construction. So I don't necessarily think any of this stuff is reverse engineered from alien tech. I think that they don't understand enough of it. Like, and then here's the other problem too. From what I understand, it seems like aerospace companies have access to this technology. Here's the problem with aerospace companies. The aerospace that they understand is flight control surfaces, wings, lift, things like that. How are they going to understand how an orb or a saucer would fly? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how are they going to understand how, at least the way Bob Lazar makes it sound, gravity amplifiers? You know what I mean? How are they going to understand that? Nobody understands that. Like,
Hmm.
nobody does. Even Bob Lazar didn't explain that in his Lazar tapes. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not lending credibility to him there or anything, but if you took this technology and put it out here into the it stopped going to physicists. From what I understand, people keep talking about physicists and mathematic experts and people like that. That's not going to solve the problem. You know?
Hmm.
Think you got to think outside the box. So I feel like if they have this stuff, they're too stupid to. They try to find the brightest minds and the best people on the SAT. You know what I mean? but they're not looking at the
Yeah.
general public problem. I think they need to release it so that way it can get the studying that it deserves, you know. But what do you
All
think
right.
about old SpaceX there with their all their internet technology in space now?
I mean, I guess what he's doing is good. I don't know if he's seen the alien technology, but
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he's been pretty skeptical about it so far. That's what it
Yeah,
sounds
I don't
like.
think they would show Elon Musk. Elon Musk would immediately go on Twitter and be like, "I've got a picture of a craft."
Yeah, he would brag about it. He would, yeah, get on his high horse about it pretty quick. I'm gonna plug my computer. Excuse me, my computer came unplugged.
Yep.
I'm back now. Okay, so I'm gonna start going through my slides, and I'm just gonna talk about some of the books I've read and how I found these books. And basically, what I did is, I think I told you, I just went on Amazon and searched UFO books, see what the top results are, and if you do that, you'll find this one. This is Ross Coulthart, and In Plain Sight. And what he does is he just kind of goes through like all of the relevant stuff in ufology, kind of the supporting stuff to back up, kind of like what we're doing, kind of. But he's like done all this investigative journalism into it, and he talks about Project Blue Book a little bit, and how a lot of people say that that was a cover for there's some other project that was actually doing the real interesting cases, and kind of the side cases went to Project Blue Book, and basically their job was to just explain it away. And that's something. So J. Allen Hynek, who was the scientist that was hired to add more credibility to Project Blue Book and was tasked with explaining away these UFO events, later went on to say, no, I do believe there is a UFO conspiracy, and there is some kind of non-human intelligence visiting us. And he talks about Roswell crash. Everybody knows about that one, but he says there's four total explanations for Roswell. There's the first news report, which basically just said we found a flying saucer. We recovered one, right? And I have that newspaper upstairs, our copy of it, a big copy of it printed out. And then they backpedaled and said, no, this was a weather balloon. And then they have that famous photo of Jesse Marcel holding up a tinfoil and sticks, like, oh, look, this is what we found. And then the third explanation was in the 90s, they revisited it, and the Air Force, I think, came out and said, we made a new report on it. We did a background investigation to see if there really was anything going on, and we just found out it was a Project Mogul balloon. And what Project Mogul was essentially a spy balloon, kind of like what the Chinese had, remember, that flew over us, kind of similar to that. And it was some secret project that we had. And then they corrected themselves again, and for some reason they said, okay, so it was a Project Mogul balloon, but it also had mannequins on it. It had mannequins on it, and those mannequins were there, so if people thought they saw bodies, no, those weren't bodies, those were mannequins. And John Greenwald, who I'll talk about his book in a minute, and it's Inside the Black Vault book pointed out that the mannequin hadn't been used or even cataloged as being invented until like 5 years after that. So they like really just didn't do their homework, and they're clearly like trying to explain something away. It seems very suspicious, at least. And he also talks about Edgar Mitchell, former Apollo astronaut. And Edgar Mitchell, he became like sort of a ufologist after his career as an astronaut. And he publicly accused the government several times of having a UFO cover-up. And they would always kind of just be like, "Ugh, that's silly old man, crazy senile old man," and they would just kind of brush it off, and nobody really take it seriously. And but on his deathbed, he revealed to his family and I guess a witness that Ross Coulthart knew, but this witness that Ross Coulthart interviewed said that Edgar Mitchell claimed on his deathbed that the Apollo space capsule he was in was followed by a triangular craft with blue lights at each corner. So it's like 3 lights following him. And it's in pictures, and I saw recently a documentary about it where they look at the picture. There are pictures out there, a few of them with the 3 blue lights you can see. But then somebody pointed out, well, on the film, there's also streaks like that look like streaks of blue light. So it's probably just a film defect. But Edgar Mitchell clearly said, no, they will say it was a film defect or a lens flare or something like this. But no, there really was something there that we saw that followed us. And so I feel like he's pretty credible. He was an Apollo astronaut. I think Buzz Aldrin said similar things, and he's been interviewed on some UFO related stuff later on too. So I feel like that adds more credibility. I think Buzz Aldrin actually said that on Mars's moon Phobos there is a monolith, a big stone, kind of like you see at what's that movie? The Stanley Kubrick space movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The monkeys see the monolith and they turn it into people. He said there's something like that, but not exactly the same thing, but like just a big stone like that. And there actually is something like that. They have photos of it, but I don't think the photos are really totally. You can't tell that they're not great resolution. So until we can get something that can get great resolution photos of Mars's moon Phobos, we don't know if he's telling the truth or why he would even say that if it's not true.
How does he know that though? He only went to the moon, right?
Right, he went to the moon. He didn't go to Mars. He didn't study Mars. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe he's just crazy old man.
Weird. Maybe. If you think about it, I mean, but there's pictures out there. You can look at that stuff and make come up with an idea of what it is. So maybe that's what he did,
You mean about the lights or the Phobos?
The monolith on the Mars's moon.
Phobos monolith. Yeah, this is it. Do you see it?
You're not sharing
you're not sharing my screen.
Or you're not sharing your screen. I can't see it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share my entire screen.
Oh, nice. Phobos monolith is a large rock on the surface of Mars's moon. Phobos.
Ooh, Dad. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it went away.
I'm just trying to figure this. Okay, I'll share this window.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm looking at. This is the alleged picture of the monolith on Phobos. And as you can tell, it could just be a big rock or something. But Buzz Aldrin is claiming this is a monolith. Let me see, does it say anything about him? Discovered by this.
So I don't trust anything I read about this anymore, see about it anymore.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin.
The problem is that they at NASA won't release pictures unless they've altered them to not show the things that that
So there was a woman, I forgot her name, it was like Debbie something, that was a whistleblower from NASA. She said, yeah, in Johnson Space Center, Building 8, that's where they do it. She said she saw something crazy on one of the photos, like some structures on the moon. And they said, oh, yeah, we just airbrush all that out. And then she's like, what the fuck? And then she said she even, like, walked in on a room, like, of them, like, something else, something crazy on the moon. And they were just, like, airbrushing the shit out of it to try to get all this shit off of it. And I think as far as I know, there's only one whistleblower that said that. But
yeah, but still though, I think NASA's even admitted to some of it because they've been called out on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. So something we could do if you really want to know if a photo's been altered. One thing that we could do is go on NASA's site whenever they post a photo. Any photo, like on their official site, go on there and download the photo and look at the metadata and see if it has been altered in some kind of program. You know what I'm saying? You can look at metadata on pictures, or if it's all been deleted. If they deleted the metadata, which would mean that they've went out of their way to delete the metadata.
Yeah.
So you could catch them up. You could catch them slipping by doing that, I think. It's a public source that they put out there.
I feel like people have done that.
Probably. I don't know about the metadata, but yeah, it's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. There was a book I saw in this documentary so this guy, he wanted to make a coffee table book about structures on the moon, or anomaly, I'll say structural anomalies on the moon. And so he just expected to see kind of, maybe kind of interesting photographs, but nothing crazy. But what he did was he found a NASA photo of the moon and used his own telescope to look at it. And he found things that weren't there, like things that look like structures, he said. That is something that we could easily do. You just need a telescope.
Yeah, I've been meaning to do that. I've been meaning to invest the money in one. They're just so expensive for one that can see like the surface of the moon and stuff.
I can't dish out that kind of money right now, but let me see if I can find some of these photos that I saw in this documentary. But there are some crazy photos of stuff on the moon, and there was one where I think it was might have been Edgar Mitchell, but they were flying in their capsule like over these craters, and some lights came out of the craters. There's like these blue flashing lights, and there was another one too where this was wild, where this thing was flying over the moon, and there's like a smoke column that came out like right after they went over it, and they're like, that shouldn't be there, but I guess there's something else.
Yeah. The crazy thing is nowadays people can get you and be like, oh, I don't believe that. That's all doctored. You know what I mean? Oh, they messed with the footage or whatever, so.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is that we need to be able to investigate anything outside of our atmosphere is to have access to a spacecraft that we can get up there, like, then they can't say anything then, but that's so far away and so far out of reach.
Yeah, I guess the thing to try would be to get my superpowered telescope and see if I see any structures on the moon, but I I don't know. I guess it's worth a try. I would try it if I had a telescope.
Or figure out how to amplify gravity waves and make your own ship.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but Tom DeLonge of Blink 182, his To the Stars Academy was claiming for years that they are on the edge of making their own UFO. And they were going to make some demonstration of this UFO technology and show it to everyone and just blow everybody's minds, but it never happened. They dropped the ball on that one. So
I wonder why.
I don't know. Maybe the Man in Black got to him, assassinated somebody.
I would attempt to do all this stuff if I didn't think it was all just incredibly nuclear. And the one thing I don't want to do, I got like a family. I don't want to nuclear irradiate myself. You know, trying to experiment with it, and that's it.
Yeah. So okay, next I mentioned the day after Roswell, Philip Corso. I guess they sum it all up. Basically, what I already said is that some of our technology, like computer technology and stealth technology was one of them, came from the aliens, from their craft. But I don't know if there's... I've heard people debate about it online, or I've seen it. And I guess there's no way to really prove or disprove it.
I can't disprove it, but I can tell you my thoughts are, radar was invented. And once radar was invented, the need for stealth technology was invented. So once they had a need for stealth technology, you could see how we could have come up with it on our own. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that UFOs didn't play a part, but we know how radar works. So we know what we need to do to make it not detect something. So making stealth, was probably already, at least at a bare minimum, in the works,
Yeah.
I mean, we had a submarine in the Revolutionary War. You know what I'm saying? So
somebody would have to consider it if there's radar already exists.
Yeah. If you tell me you've got a badass alarm on your house, the first thing I'm going to start doing is, well, I wonder how I could get past it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things that people do.
Yeah, especially if you're fighting a war against somebody, you want to know how to get the sneak on them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so John Greenwald's book, he kind of does a lot of the same stuff that these other ones do. A lot of them do this where they kind of just review all the Roswell and major stuff that's happened through their eyes. And one of the things that I brought up that John Greenwald pointed out was mannequins weren't invented after they corrected themselves a fourth time, and said for some reason that there's mannequins there, which it's like nobody asked, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, mannequins. But he said mannequins weren't invented, and he also he tried contacting NORAD, and ultimately kind of figured out it was probably NORAD's responsibility if there was to track UFOs if somebody is doing that, and he contacted the U.S.'s NORAD command, and they denied him. But NORAD also is a joint command with Canada, so he calls Canada, the Canadian command for NORAD, and they just hand him right over. They say, "Oh, we need you to just pay for the paper, and we'll send it over, shipping, and we'll send it." And they did. So he caught them lying, essentially, and
I've gotten into this book. This book is a good book, and this dude, I think, has got a lot of lends a lot of credibility that he's going about it the right way, and that he's submitting FOIA requests, and that he's just bringing cold hard facts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy's got a lot of credibility in my book.
Yeah, he did it the right way. The FOIA requests, and he did it when he was a teenager too, which I had no idea about FOIA, until I don't know, a year ago or something. I had no idea that it even existed, and props on him. But I'm gonna
I really like this book. I've started a couple of UFO books that I'm not even going to mention them, but they were by people who were former military and this and that. And these books were, in my opinion, just really bad, and I didn't finish them because I couldn't get past the first chapter. This book here, Inside the Black Vault, it is a little bit dry, but he makes it really entertaining for how dry it is, and just hearing the facts and stuff keeps you so interested because you know that everything that gets said, everything that's covered in this book, he has made public to everybody. You know, the FOIA
Yeah,
requests and
it's
the
on his
actual
website.
documents and everything
Yeah.
else. Yeah, you can go and look at all that
Hmm.
stuff and confirm it for yourself. So
Yeah. As far as I
I
know,
really like
nobody
it.
else has done that. Like, just started doing FOIA requests and then publishing them online what they find. Which that would be the only way we could figure out if anything's going on if we had a bunch of people doing that. And I think they intentionally made it difficult to find out things. And he even said he started when he was a teen. I think he was just started doing FOIA requests saying, I want to see everything related to UFO. So if they don't call it a UFO, or if they use some code words in it, they could easily slip by him. He wouldn't find it. And, if you don't know what to ask for, they don't give it to you.
Exactly. You have to know exactly what to ask for and exactly how to ask for it.
Yeah.
And then they can just not give it to you too. And
They could
nobody's going
say
to
it
be
was
held
destroyed.
accountable.
It happens all the time. The Roswell
Yep.
records all destroyed.
Yeah. All just, well, we just threw it away or
Yeah.
lost in a fire.
Yeah.
He caught one guy lying to him. He said, the guy flat out said, we don't have anything related to that. God damn.
I
Sorry.
think that was
But we don't
Sonora.
have anything related to that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like years later or something, another FOIA request comes in and they give it out to him. And it's like, you said you didn't have anything related to this.
Right. Yeah.
Oops. And it's just some like E6 in the Air Force or something, you know,
Hmm.
like that dude should have been, should have at bare minimum had his ass chewed for it.
Yeah.
You know, you know,
Hmm.
imagine if we had made some mistake like that in the military. You know,
Well, I
like
mean,
and
I
it.
guess that gives you easily. You could easily just blame it on that guy. Say that guy's a fucking dumbass. It's not the Air
Yeah, you
Force fault.
could, but yeah, but still, though, I mean, he represents. If you putting somebody in that position, you're representing the Air Force to the general public. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you got to hold them at a little bit higher standard. You know, like when we were on deployments, and I just did whatever I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Depending on where I was at, I could go out and get hammered and come back, shitty drunk, and basically come to work just as hungover as possible. But when I'm like at certain places, on deployment, I had to be an example of what America's supposed to look like. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like there's a time and a place, and the time and place to not give somebody some information that you have, like not lie to them. I think is when you're in the public eye. So
Yeah,
that's
but I
just
think
me.
if the higher command really doesn't want to give him over, it gives them deniability if they say, "Oh, we had some dumbass here, and he's got a learning disability or something, and he don't know what he's doing." Or I don't know. Yeah,
I feel, I feel like that every time I see redacted documents. As soon as I see redacted documents, I know for a fact that they've put somebody E6 or below, and probably even E4 and below, to redact these documents because I look at them and they're just overly redacted. So then you have to go in and you have to file something that that says that, oh, I believe these are overly redacted, but they just redact the crap out of them, and there's only a few words in the whole document,
yeah,
and some dipshit like O3 is signing off on it like, yeah, that looks redacted enough to me. You don't even know what was in the document. You haven't even read the document. You're just saying that this is,
mm,
redacted it. I mean, they basically just redact the crap out of everything
yeah.
and
Just redact it so much you can't make any sense out of what it is.
like no sense out of it at all. And
Yeah,
that's not what the whole process is for. The redaction process is not to keep you from knowing what's going on if it's declassified. The redaction process is, at least the way I look at it, to keep people's names from prevented, to keep
yeah,
uh, certain technology out of other people's hands, things like that. You don't want anybody to get hurt or find out their names or where they live, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
You're not supposed to redact like if you look at the pilots that reported UFO sightings from the Navy, and you go on the Black Vault and you look at it, they have redacted so much of it, you can't tell where they were. You can't tell what they were doing. You can't tell how fast they were flying. You can't tell how high they were. You don't have any idea. You just know they saw something, and that's all that you know. And you may not even know that because these reports are so heavily redacted. And it's like, dude, these things are from 10, 15 years ago, some of them. Like, you're telling me that we can't say that, over Connecticut, we had some, you know, F-22s flying around 10 years ago or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about like 2013, now you can't tell that, that we had somebody flying over Norfolk, like, well, I don't know where they were, but that's the whole thing that I'm getting at. Like, you have no idea where they were, what they were doing, what they saw, nothing. So we have no idea what it is that they saw, and so why are we even releasing these redacted documents in the first place?
Yeah, it's just wasting everybody's time. Just,
Yeah, and then we're paying some E4 in there to just take a black marker and go over top of everything.
yeah, I
You know,
think he said too what they would do is if they like for example asked for some UFO related document and there was something that was kind of scandalous in there, they would bury it with like thousands of other just nonsense bullshit. So they hope that you just get tired of reading it and just it's like they give you like 1,000 pages of legal documents or something, and then there's something in
you
there.
do get tired of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've tried to look through the Black Vault and some of that stuff, and it's just like I just wish that he would just take everything he had and put it all on one PDF, and I could just scroll the whole thing and make it all searchable. Because you go through there and you click and you open something and it has nothing you want, and you go through there and you click, you open something, it has nothing you want, nothing you want, nothing you want. I think that they're going to be really surprised though, because one day technology is going to get to the point where these old things that they've done that to, we're going to be able to search it out. Nobody's ever going to be held accountable for it though, like for doing that kind of stuff to people. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter that they've done it, but we will eventually get down to the truth.
yeah,
Like right now, you can use AI, for all kinds of stuff. What happens when we get to the point where I can scan documents into AI that are not searchable by PDF, and then I make it searchable? They go through there, they find what I want them to find,
yeah.
and piece it all together. It's gonna happen.
I even saw somebody. I know you mentioned to me like let's try to feed that just redacted words that's left into like Chat GPT and ask it to fill it out. Somebody actually tried that and it did come out with some crazy shit about like UFOs and I didn't.
Yeah, I did that. I did it, and I still have it all saved on my phone. But all of it was nonsense that I got. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you have to take it, you have to specify exactly what you're going over, and it turns it into more of a game because you can't tell Chat GPT, oh, we're going to look at redacted classified documents. They're not going to, it won't do it. But
mm-hmm.
if you tell it, let's play Mad Libs or let's play fill in the blank,
Yeah. They
and you
said
give it this stuff,
fill in the blank and then wrote what it this blank or whatever.
that's the problem. Once you do the fill in the blank, it just fills in the blank with whatever. If you could convince the AI to say, okay, here's what we're really going to do. We want to get down to the bottom of what was in these documents, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I just came up with a way to do it. But that's kind of what I'm getting at, like it would, it would have to know that that's what the mission is, not just to fill in words. And
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we're quite there yet.
Yeah, I think whoever did this was experimenting with a lot of different versions of Chat GPT, and he used like Chat GPT version 8 or something. I don't know how many versions there are. Maybe could be wrong, but it's something, and it had some initials after it, so I had a feeling it was like some kind of modified version of Chat GPT somehow that he tweaked around with. So, yeah, I don't know. That takes a lot of finagling. It would take a lot of time to figure that out, probably.
Yeah, it definitely takes some studying up on how to do it. You have to get chat. You have to get chat to break the rules, if you will, because there's it has rules set forth, and getting it to break the rules is kind of a pain. Like kind of a pain,
Yeah.
dude. We need to talk to any of these people. Oh, there's other people too. Have you watched Encounters on Netflix?
Oh yeah, that was a great one. Oh yeah,
I watched the first episode today, and it was actually really good. And
it's excellent. Yeah.
yeah, I think so too. I think we should go to that town in Texas and probably talk to some real witnesses.
I feel like we could probably find somebody that saw it. Just go hang out
Yeah,
in the
for sure.
local tavern or bar and just start asking about it. I'm sure somebody would, speak up. I feel like,
Yeah, I think they would, for
yeah,
sure.
because they have so many witnesses.
I think, and that's something that we could do because I know we've been talking about taking a trip and doing some investigating. That's not a bad place to go and talk to somebody.
Yeah,
Maybe sit down and do
no,
it Ben Hansen style. Set up a camera, do it, Ben Hansen style. Go in there and just talk to somebody and see anybody that's willing to.
yeah, yeah. That's a good idea. I would like to find some other. I'm sure there's probably other interesting places in Texas, like the Marvis Lights or whatever. Or you know
Yeah,
what
the
I'm talking
Marfa
about?
lights.
Marfa Lights.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that'd be worth checking out too. Okay, so other than the 500 people that saw those UFOs and reported it, I've listed some other people who could be considered like experts, like super credible people, kind of people where if they say something, they generally don't lie about it and have done a lot of research into it. And so I started with the first ufologist who coined the term UFO, J. Allen Hynek. He was the scientist hired by Project Blue Book to. So what the scuttlebutt is, I'll just say like scuttlebutt with like this kind of mythology behind this stuff is that Project Blue Book was uh, its job was to explain away these UFO sightings so people would stop believing in them and not give them any interest. And I'll also note the conclusion of the Project Blue Book, which was I think in the early '70s. Uh, they concluded it with this. They hired this other professor. His name was Condon, something Condon, and he wrote a report called the Condon Report. The report started out at the very beginning with the conclusion that UFOs are of no interest to us and pose no threat, pose no. Like, he started out with that and then started listing why we should not give a fuck about this anymore and we're not going to pay any money, any kind of projects to study it at all anymore. So they said after that officially that the Air Force was no longer studying UFOs. Nobody was in the U.S. military officially, but the scuttlebutt behind that is that unofficially they still were, and somebody had a very close understanding of what these craft were and possibly had some. I don't know if Heinlein went as far as to say that we had some, but he did say uh, that that he felt that there was some non-human intelligence in visiting us, and he had come up with the close close encounter, the first kind, the second kind, the third kind. That was him that came up with those terms, and so he was the mentor to Jacques Vallée, who's still alive today, and he was the basis for, if you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's this French ufologist guy. It's not him, but it's based on him. And he was the first to suggest that this is an interdimensional phenomenon, whatever that means. I've heard it explained like, we live in, we have four dimensions, time, including our spatial dimensions. So I don't know if that means there's another spatial dimension that we can't see or how that works or the details what even that means, or maybe there's some kind of energy or field that we just totally don't understand anything about and don't even know how to come up with instruments to detect this, whatever this is. But there's some kind of phenomenon that is outside of our normal realm that can pop in, and I don't know, maybe they have the UFOs and they're zigzagging across the space, our skies, and these UFOs and pop out into their dimension. Who knows how that works, but that's what he suggested. And he also pointed out, he goes back through time about ancient descriptions of paranormal things, or things like UFOs that sound very much like UFOs, even like elves and goblins and things, and compares those to what are modern day stories of UFOs and UFO encounters have been like. And he suggests that this phenomenon has been interacting with us for as far as back as like we can really detect, like as far as back as time, and we don't really know what their relationship is to us, but they've seemed to have an interest in us for a very long time, and what that is, we don't know. But I'll move on to Bob Lazar, and also I need to add things to these people that I think would discredit them. I don't think J. Allen Hynek really has any controversy to his character. Neither does Jack Valet. He doesn't outright. He just repeats the claims from people he interviews. So he's not. I don't think he's really accused the government of much of anything. But Bob Lazar, he's the one that claims that we had this reverse engineering program and he worked on it. So I'll just say, like, there's definitely things that are questionable about him. Like, I've heard that he's ran a brothel out of his home. I've heard that on documentaries before, that he faced some kind of charges related to that. Also, something to support his claims, I think you've heard this too. He claimed that he went to like Stanford or someplace and got an education. And at first, people thought that those records didn't exist, so he must be lying. But they went back and somebody actually found records. I think it was Jeremy Corbell or like George Knapp, like helped him go back and find actual records that still existed at like an old phone book, and some other records that proved he did go to this university. So apparently he did go to this university. I'm sorry?
It was Stanford and MIT.
Stanford and MIT. Okay. Yeah. And your microphone's kind of cut distant. Okay, that's better.
Oh, does that sound better?
Yeah, that's better, yeah. So he claimed he went to Stanford and MIT. The records were initially thought to be not there. Some still existed, so he kind of proved that there was some sort of conspiracy to hide this fact that he was educated there, which I think accredits his story a little bit, but still, I'm kind of on the edge with him. It's kind of back and forth. We don't know, but
I think he's more credible than we think, because in that documentary with him and Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar had stated many times previously that they had something where you stick your hand on it and it measures the bones in your hand to identify you. And then Corbell found that, and it turns out that technology has now, it's all dated. So they're like selling this stuff at auction, or they're you can find it online available to purchase.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
he had found one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, he had been talking about it well before, and then Bob Lazar also had been talking about was Element 115 previously. You know what I mean? And they've brought that up again, later on too. So I kind of feel like he's got enough there to keep him credible.
Yeah,
too,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I feel like pretty credible. I'll say 75%, 80% sure that he's not lying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
he's kept his story straight for many years. So,
yeah, I think I've heard somebody else at Area 51 said they confirmed that they did see him there, that he was there, and they saw he was like on their phone listing too. Um, but I'll move on to so Lou Elizondo. He's one of the more modern witnesses. And I don't think he's really witnessed anything firsthand either. He's never said that he saw. He just saw the uh, videos of it, and I don't know if he said he saw pictures of it, but I don't know that Lou Elizondo saw any of this stuff firsthand. But he was apparently looking into it while he worked at the Pentagon somehow, and his relationship with this ATIP program, which he claims to be the head of, is a little bit muddy. I feel like there's kind of confusion about whether ATIP was their Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program was an official Pentagon program or just some part-time thing he was doing on his own personal time. Get out of my video, my kitty cat. And but I feel like he's again he's mostly credible. I feel like.
yeah, I like Lou. I think Lou's credible. And the reason why I think Lou's credible, so like when you listen to him talk, and it's a bit like listening to David Grush talk. I have my I have my thoughts on Lou Elizondo, but when you hear him talk, he knows how the system works. He knows how top secret info and compartmentalized information kind of works. He knows what you can say and what you can't say, and he doesn't. I don't know really if he's overly classifying what he can say. Like if he's just holding back what he can say, maybe a little bit more than he should or less than he should. I can't tell because I don't know what he knows, but I know that you listen to him talk, you know that he knows what he's talking about in that context. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not one of these guys like Stephen Greer, right? When Greer comes out and says something, and I listen to it, I know that he's not talking. I don't understand what he's saying because
Mm-hmm.
I understand what Lou Elizondo's saying. I understand what David Grush is saying because I've worked for the government for 10 years of my life. I mean, you've worked for the government for probably that long too, so you
Yeah, I have.
understand all this
Mm-hmm.
the terminology, you understand the processes by which things get done. Um, so I know that he at least has that kind of credibility. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's also gone around and interviewed a lot of people for his television show, so he has gathered a lot of information, and even if he hadn't seen anything in person, I think that he's gathered enough information and spoke to enough people to come up with a credible conclusion, or at least a credible hypothesis on, or what's happening, credible theories on what's happened. And I've also seen his name on documents for FOIA requests and things like that. I've went and looked online at, I don't remember what I was looking for or why. Um, but it was when I was reading the Black Vault, and I went online and looked at some of this stuff, the processing of these requests or something, and Lou Elizondo's name is on stuff. So
Yeah.
he's actively researching. He's actively going and researching and putting in the work. So I think he at least has the credibility that he's serious about it. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
wants to know what's going on the same way everybody else does. And if he does actually know I think he knows. I think he knows a lot more about what's going on. Maybe not to the level of David Grush, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he knows a lot more than we do. And
I kind of feel like this ATIP program existed at a time when the government's or the DoD was still officially wasn't investigating UFOs or UAPs. That was not something that taxpayer dollars should have been going to at that point because as far as we knew, they said it was completely not even worth their time or anybody's time to look at. And so
It's kind of
this,
like a collateral duty. Yeah, like some collateral duty he came up with. You know.
well, I don't, I think he might be telling the truth that this ATEP program is kind of like we have Arrow now. I think Arrow happened because the cat's out of the bag. New York Times is publishing something that's saying we do have this program called ATIP, and Lou Elizondo is the head of it. And so I think the Pentagon just backpedaled and pulled another Balthazar on it and said, "Oh no, no, we weren't investigating UFOs. He was. That's just a thing he was doing on his own. We don't do that. We don't do that. We never did that." And I think that could have been something they were just lying again about. Like maybe he's telling the truth and the government's lying. It's his word versus theirs. I mean,
The government would, they say that Satan is married to lying, right? Like he'll lie even whenever telling the truth work in his favor, and I feel like the government is Satan in this case. Like it would work better to their favor to tell the truth, to
mm-hmm.
a degree. You don't have to give us all the information. You don't
Yeah.
have to give us all the information, but you can say, yeah, we are looking into this stuff. Things have been reported. We know things have been reported because the general population has reported them. Commercial
Mm-hmm.
airline pilots have reported them. There's stuff, So yeah, if they came out and said, we have been investigating this stuff. We're taking the reports that we get from people seriously, and that's what this is about. And that's all they would have had to say. But
Yeah.
and people
Mm-hmm.
would have missed it. But no, now that they try to backpedal and cover it up, the first thing they do is try to deny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that works in their favor. I
No.
really don't. Lying to people never works in
Yeah.
your favor. And when you get caught lying, people trust you even less. If you want to build trust in the government, just come out and tell us. You know, I think
Right.
the people can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, you're right. They could have at least said, "Okay, yeah, we saw some more things that made us take it more seriously now, and so we are looking into it. We've got nothing to worry about, guys. We got our eyes on the skies. We're handling it." And everybody, okay, yeah, cool. Let us know what you find
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
but
exactly.
the fact that they try to lie a little bit, like they're like, "Oh well, it makes them look a little more guilty."
They're caught off guard. That's what it is. They
Uh,
get caught off guard. And
uh,
and I think that's the problem. Like, I mean, we all get caught off guard once in a while, like you're
uh-huh.
sneaking cookies out of the cookie jar, but you quickly turn and act like you're grabbing a napkin or something, and your mom, catches you as your
Yeah,
mom catches you. That's what they're
yeah,
doing. They got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they're coming up with an excuse.
yeah.
And I think that they should their initial response should be a lot more smooth, cool, and calm, and just tell us some
Mm-hmm.
truth, give us some truth. And because I will say this, I am, as much as I want full disclosure, I understand there are things that we're not going to get disclosed because it may actually be a national security issue. Like, do we want everyone in the nation knowing that we're tracking spy balloons over the United States? Not really,
Mm-hmm.
but we want them to know, if they see them, we want to say, yeah, we know it's there. We're tracking it. We're on this thing. We've already taken measures to prevent it from working. But we don't want to let our enemies know that we're tracking it. So I get that. You don't have to tell us every detail, but you can tell the truth nonetheless. You still tell the truth. They don't do that.
No.
So
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to another big one we haven't talked about. I got a whole slide dedicated to David Grush, who.
let me let me use the restroom before we go on to that.
Yeah, of course. All right, go ahead.
All right, I made it back.
All right.
Yeah,
So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about David Grush, and then I'm gonna wrap it up here for tonight. I'm gonna head upstairs, but I got a lot prepared about him. I did a little bit of background, research on who he was, and I think this is the guy that made it mainstream. This is people on Reddit. I get on Reddit quite a bit, and people are on Reddit are freaking out, and they're like starting to like look back at all these old NASA photos and starting to like look at things more carefully, the actions the government's made and said, and going back and analyzing this stuff through this lens of now that David Grush has he has a case with the Inspector General of the intelligence community about these claims that the government or whoever, this entity within the government, has the reverse engineered craft, has the captured craft, has the bodies, and now the Inspector General is investigating this, and he's of course gone before Congress and said it. So that makes a lot more people feel like believe what I'm saying here, what I have in these slides basically, and really start to think about it. And I feel like he's telling the truth. I feel like he's sincere, and I want to believe that he just feels like he's doing the right thing, that he has to, blow the lid off of this, and that's what he's doing. I want to mention too. I got some random person on my Facebook page sent me this thing. I showed it to you, that accused his lawyer of being involved in the 9/11 terror attacks cover up, and then allegedly he planned the terror attacks and then had the Patriot Act ready to go after that. And he's like, all right, I guess we can pass this Patriot Act now. So I don't know. I have never found anything. I did a little bit of research on this guy. His name is Charles McCullough. I have never Googled around a little bit about him. I couldn't find a bad thing about him. It said everything he did was good. It did mention he did help write the Patriot Act. It says that he lied to the Inspector General about Edward Snowden, attempted to get Julian Assange assassinated. I don't know. Maybe he just said that. Maybe he just said, I hate that motherfucker. I hope he dies. Doesn't mean you try to get him assassinated. But
man, I don't know. Like I'll come to that guy's aid a little bit. I don't know much about him, but I did look him up. But he, okay, planned the 9/11 attack. Really, we're going down for like it. Kind of feels like the people are going after this guy for things just because he was in that position. Maybe he did it. He played a role in the Patriot Act, but that doesn't mean that we blew up the Twin Towers just for the Patriot Act. The government's done things like the Patriot Act without, killing thousands of people. Then on top of that, you go down that rabbit hole a little more. Alleged to have lied to Congress and the first in his role as the first Inspector General. So, and then lying about Edward Snowden to the Inspector General. Like, I just don't. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would, if he came up with the Patriot Act, it depends on is he lying about what Edward Snowden leaked? Maybe he would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get caught lying to the Inspector General, like if you get caught in that is that's a serious charge. I mean, I've walked one of those people around a Navy ship before. I've walked around Inspector Generals on the ship. And it's hard. It's hard to deal with them. I mean, they're good people. But it's hard to deal with them because you're walking around. I'm looking for stolen televisions, right? Well, allegedly stolen televisions. We came to the conclusion that none of them were stolen. They were all on the boat. Somebody just made this up. But this person walks around this ship, and they're looking for anything and everything illegal that they can find whatsoever. And extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah.
extremely knowledgeable. I'm walking around with this lady, dude. I can't say nothing. I say, I'm like, yeah, it's not like I'm going to get paid to do that, And then she'll
Yeah.
be like, what? They're not like, she's digging in. Are they going to pay you your salary? Is anything wrong? Like, whoa, dude,
Yeah.
I will take care of myself. You
Mm.
take care of these TVs. And then we're walking around, and then we come past a barber shop on the ship. This ship was built in the 70s, and there's a barber shop on it. It's a full on constructed barber shop. It's beautiful. It's barber chair, everything. It's a barber shop. And
Mm.
she's wondering if this was planned and built and constructed originally with the ship, or if this was made afterwards, and where the plans were, and who decided that we're going to put a barber shop on the ship. That's not even what you're here for. And
Yeah.
she's turns out the barber shop was supposed to be there. It's been there since the 70s, but it doesn't matter. She's looking, she's like, okay, I'm walking past a wall. Was this wall structurally here? I'm like, good Lord, dude, these people are very thorough. I'll give it to the inspector generals, unless there's something that they know that they have to keep top secret, which I would trust them to do. At least this person that I worked with was on her job like nobody I've ever seen. Like, I was legit walking around with, like, how you don't speak to the cops. I wasn't even a suspect. I'm just a
Mm.
person helping you navigate your way around this big ship.
Yeah.
And as a ship's officer, I'm not trying to.
Incriminate
I'm
yourself.
definitely not trying to. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, you can't do or say anything. We had one
Yeah.
guy resist this woman and say she can't come inside my room and look at my TV, and that was
Oh.
that was it was one of those like knock down, drag out. She never got in that room, because he was right. It's in the reputation of that TV. It was one of those things like this is a serious law enforcement officer on a serious mission doing the government's work, like putting in work. So I will say if he got caught lying to one of them, or uh, at least in my experience, they are very thorough and very very good job. So that's my honest opinion, and
Yeah.
I would say otherwise if I felt that.
Well, if you told the inspector general that the government was hiding UFOs, like I feel like that's pretty cut and dry. Like they either have to find that
If I
out
if I
or you're lying.
if I told that woman that, she would have made me get in a car right then, drive to an airport, fly from Guam back to America, and go investigate if there was a UFO at the
Yeah.
site that I said there was. Like,
Where's the UFO?
that's the kind of person.
I'm gonna go knock on their
Yeah,
door.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
what she would have done, and I,
Yeah.
I, I have no doubt in my mind that's probably something that she would have done if she'd known that there was anything that was potentially not to the T on a regulation. We're not just talking about law. We're talking about regulation. We're talking about everything. That's the kind of law enforcement that this person was down to her soul. I was like, golly, man. So like you don't want to run around with those people, and because they're on a mission and they're gonna get it accomplished, and that's
Mm.
my experience with them. So at least with her, so
This is my kid's
definitely
here.
more thorough than somebody like NCIS. I've worked with NCIS just to give them reports that they'd asked me, to come in and make my statement that I had to make for Timor, and the inspector general's on a whole nother level, a whole nother level. It's like dealing with Army Rangers and then dealing with Delta Force,
Yeah. Uh,
like that was what it was like. I was like, golly,
okay, so I feel like that's something that accredits Crush's story is he has an inspector general case, and he testified in front of Congress. He didn't give specific details, but he said he would privately in a skiff give them. I don't know if he's given them yet, but I don't know
yeah, I
if they
don't
took
know.
his clearance away. How would he even get access to a skiff? But
I don't think they took his clearance away, but your need to know goes away. Like
yeah,
I'll tell you, I had my clearance. I had my Navy clearance. I got out of the Navy. I had my clearance. Shoot, 4 years after I got out, I went back to work for the Navy again as a civilian, and I still had my clearance. Never went away.
yeah. I think I did
And
something
I quit
similar
working for them
too.
and went working for the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I worked for the Navy as a
Yeah,
civilian
yeah. I mean,
for a summer.
yeah, Yeah, and you still have your clearance. You know, it just I don't even. I think mine was still active. Everything was good, and now I have my clearances held by my company, and it's active with them, and it's still held by the Navy. So I mean, I've got two custodians over my clearance right now. So you go to, I mean, I went to go transfer it over to my company, and they're like, well, the Navy still has custody of it too. Like, well, I haven't worked for them for a couple of years now. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I think it's good for
they're
like
just
at
the way
least
it
four
is.
years after, because they do all that background check on
Yeah, you got
everything.
a whole total of 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't want to do that again. But
yeah.
they did. They did. So I had two Navy clearances for a little while. I had two separate clearances because at who was it? It's a little late, so I forgot the people that do your clearance got hacked like back in like 2000 and I don't know like 11 or 12 or something like that, and
Mm.
they ended up changing the way they do clearances. Now you have different clearances. Um, they're all still secret and top secret, and they're the same clearance. But I had to get a second one, so I had two concurrent secret clearances at the same time. So
Mm.
it was weird until one expired. So, but yeah, Grush I think is great. But here's my concern with Grush though, right? So he's doing everything the right way. This dude is the perfect person to do this. But if I could ask him a question, I would say, at what point are you gonna? Is there a point in this whole process by which you're gonna say, okay, the government has not done the right thing? They haven't disclosed what they're supposed to. They haven't disclosed anything. This investigation has gone nowhere. The rat holed it, and everything that I have done, if you did it the right way, everything that I have done is not. Nothing has come of it. When are you just going to blow the whistle completely and just blow the lid off? Because if they deny everything, anyways, it doesn't matter. If they're going to
Mm-hmm.
deny it, you can't be in trouble for sharing the information if they've already denied it. You know what I mean? Or if they're going to deny it, or if they're just not. You know, like as soon as they deny that it's real, you can't be prosecuted for it because um, like, it's not real according to
Mm-hmm.
them. Making
Like
stuff up. So
when, like, is he gonna come out and say, "Oh, Lockheed has it, and it's here. It's at China Lake, or it's at whatever"?
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, like exactly. Like this is what they have. This is where it's at. These are the locations. You know, is he gonna ever do that? If is there? And I'm not asking is he gonna do that because right now, obviously, his answer would be no. I will never do that. But I wouldn't even expect him to answer this. But at some point, there's got to be a. I went through all this. I did all this. Nothing has come of it at all. Am I just going to go ahead and blow the whistle because he's using the whistleblower program the way that it is meant to be used. He's doing everything right. I can't complain about that. But
Mm-hmm.
he has a lot of this knowledge. So unless he suddenly dies, which would then be very suspicious, you know, he's going to have that knowledge all the way till he goes to the grave. Is he going to
Mm-hmm.
wait until he gets into his aged years and they're like, well, he's senile. We can't trust anything he says. Like an
Mm-hmm.
astronaut on their deathbed confessions are not generally looked at favorably because it's a deathbed confession.
Well, I mean,
Like
it's my understanding that he was going to do that to Congress. He was going to give them specific details of this is here and this is here. This is where you want to go look. And I don't know what's come of
even if
that.
even if he hasn't, like if they don't let him do that, is he ever just going to say, you know what, I was going about this the right way. I've done everything I can. The system has failed. None of the things that have been put into place for this program to work are working. Nothing has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Just go like Edward Snowden did. Just call
Yeah. But
give it a name.
by the time that happens, it's kind of like taking a prisoner of war and flying them to Guantanamo Bay before you question them. By
Yeah.
the time you get them there to Guantanamo Bay, all their information that they had is old news. It's not actionable anymore. So by the time they let Grush tell all of Congress, and Congress can start investigating and everything else, all this stuff could be moved. They could move it.
Absolutely,
They could
yeah,
move everything. Could be. I mean, it would be, in my opinion, to put wheels on this and move it and completely uproot everything would be a logistical thing they have to do. But they could accomplish it. Let's say it
yeah,
takes 6 months before Grush gets to 6 months to a year before Grush gets to talk to Congress in a skiff and tell them what he knows. By that
yeah,
time, that information may be basically null and void. A lot of it.
yeah, hmm,
Some of it'll still be good, but nothing would be actionable
yeah.
because you can't go to those sites and see it because
I mean, and they've
it's
lost
not
so many records before. They could say, "Oh, those records got destroyed." Sorry, I don't know what
a yeah,
happened.
yeah. Exactly. So I hope that he has somewhere in his mind that he thinks, okay, like, all right, let's just, the justice system. The justice system fails people all the time. And people pick up and take the law into their own hands. And there's a reason for that. And that's a failure. And sometimes that's a failure of the justice system. And,
Hmm.
is there going to be a failure of this system uh, at the federal level where Grush is finally just going to be like, this is my timeline. This is what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, because if nothing happens in the next 10, 15 years, everything he says is it's all skewed. Um, they've had time to skew the information. Move everything. Programs are gone. People are gone. Nobody that you can contacts in that industry or wherever they're at, they're no longer there. What I want to know is how these people at these private companies are keeping the secret. They'd have to be paid really well, you know.
Yeah, or threatened.
They'd have to be, yeah. The big issue for me is another thing, like these whistleblowers, right? That they're saying, well, Russia's saying, well, a lot of these people are, they're afraid of what will happen to them. If they come out and go and blow the whistle, they're afraid that, their career, this or their this or that. I got news for you. As somebody who got out of the military, I had a good military career. I was relatively successful. You know what I'm saying? It was good. It was good to me. But the thing is you can succeed outside of the military and outside of the federal government, and yeah, and I have news for you too. You could get a job at the federal government after the military and still retire from the federal government, and still have all the same benefits. You can be successful. You don't have to worry about making rank. Oh, I blew the whistle. Am I going to lose my rank? Are they going to
Yeah, I
screw my
mean,
life up?
if it was
I mean,
between this and losing rank, I would do the right thing. I mean, I don't know if you saw in that
yeah,
first
worried about.
episode of Encounters that Navy officer that said he saw him in his room, and he said, "I'm blowing the whistle because it's not about me; it's about everybody, and this is about all of us, and we have a right to know, and this is just the right thing."
I've developed my thoughts on him already. I do believe that. I mean, if he was on the ship, whenever Ryan Graves saw that, I believe it was Graves' UFO, the gimbal one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I believe him. I believe he was there. I mean, all that stuff. I don't know how. I think he has seen something and been part of something to that got his mind working. Like, I don't know about having aliens in your room, or why would they want to be in his room messing with him? Like,
I don't
that's the
know.
thing that I kind of, it feels like a bit of psychosis to me.
He did see.
Like,
He felt somebody grab him. Maybe that
yeah, I've
affected
done
him.
that too. Whenever I've had you ever had that what is it, that sleep paralysis? Like, you've got
No.
to jump up and turn on the light as fast as you can because you're scared to death. You can't move. You wake up and you can't move, and you feel like something's sitting on top of you, or you just can't move. I've had
Mm-hmm.
that. Psychosis. I mean, I know what psychosis is too. Where you think you see things, you think things are real, you hear things because it's just part of. I don't think that there's any reason why he would witness that craft in the air on the or I don't even think he witnessed it in the air. He didn't even see it. He's
Okay,
on
you
a
just
ship.
saw a video of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then all of a sudden, because you were so close to it, you know, I don't see why you would experience beings coming into your room. It feels to me like psychosis, and I don't want to say that to
Yeah.
be like, oh, this guy's crazy. No, I mean anyone can experience psychosis, and
Hmm.
I feel like maybe that's what happened with him. But I do think that him coming out and talking about it didn't mean that he had to get out of the military either. You know, like it's not
Yeah.
it's not like he's like telling classified information. If he's exposing real classified information, he'd be going to jail. So
Yeah. I feel like probably there's probably a lot of people in the military that probably take this seriously now. Especially the newer people who are coming in are like, yeah, no, that shit's real.
yeah, it is, and there's at a bare minimum, the government has something to hide.
Mm.
They have at a bare minimum they have something to hide, and they've gotten caught with their hand in the cookie jar too many times where they've had to change their story, or they've been
Yeah.
surprised by the fact that people found
Clearly
out
are
about this stuff.
hiding something. Like with the four explanations from Roswell, we had uh, John Greenwald caught him lying. We had, I'm sure there's a lot of other cases where they just act really sus, act really sus about it.
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean they get caught acting. You wouldn't have to act suspicious if you weren't suspicious. If people suspect something and you tell them the truth, then you don't have to do that. We live in a time right now in our country where government trust is really low, and it's been really low since we were kids. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really low trust in the government. They lie all the time. You got the Edward Snowden thing came out. Now we know that all of our information goes through NSA servers. We know that they look at anything we have at any time. We know that they lie about UFOs. Uh, got conspiracy theories everywhere, and the problem is the government hasn't been truthful, so we don't know when to believe them and not to believe them. The whole
Yeah.
Maui fires thing. There's a big conspiracy over that. Um, which I'm not there. I'm not going to give real thoughts on it.
Yeah.
We know that during the Ukraine war, fake footage has been released of stuff and spread all over the internet, like that Ghost of Kiev, that fighter pilot. That was all
Yeah.
uh, video game footage and things like that. Like, there's so much crap out there, and the government, instead of just telling us the truth about things, they go to discredit other things. Like, just tell us what's going on. Like, I mean, really, and if we do have alien spacecraft, like, we are the most powerful country in the world. The world.
Mm-hmm.
We have what, 14 aircraft carriers, and I think the next closest person to us may be China, and they have two, and I'm not even convinced that either of them work properly. Russia
Mm-hmm.
has one, and we know it doesn't work properly. We have 14. I don't think anyone else even comes close to us on a global scale of power. The only thing we have to worry about is other people's nuclear bombs. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think we really have to worry about that, because I don't think uh, I don't think anybody I don't think we have to worry about mutually assured destruction of our planet, all because we have some UFOs. I think that if people wanted
Yeah.
access to that technology, they'd be nuking us isn't the way to go. So we're
Yeah.
not going to go to war over it. We need to disclose it, get it out into the public, and let people work on figuring this stuff out. In a more public setting, so that way we can get the answers we need.
Yeah. You know what I want to see? I want to see the aliens. I want to see what they look like.
I want to see that. Yeah, I don't know last thing before I have to get off here, but the alien bodies in Mexico,
Oh,
the paper
yeah, yeah.
mache
Yeah. Whatever that turns out to be. I mean, I've heard that they've been
DNA tested it,
doing more
X-rayed
credible
it.
things on it, and more research has been done on it. But I don't know. I don't even feel like I really want to comment on it because until somebody from the U.S. scientists does a peer-reviewed study on it, and then I'll look at it. And if it
I think what we need to do. I think what we need to
not
do.
somebody from the U.S.,
Uh,
but anybody does a peer-reviewed study, but I don't think it's been done yet. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I I think what we need to do. I know that we can get access to it. Like we could get access to those bodies. You and I. I know that we could, and I think that after this podcast, I'm gonna tell you what I think we could do because it's actually a real. I think you could really get them in front of you and look at them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I think here in a minute. But other
Okay.
than that, I don't know what to think about that. I want to see DNA testing on them. I want to
Yeah.
see.
I don't read much about it. I just saw that, I read maybe one or two things about it, but I just don't care to look at it that much
They
until I hear more.
they X-rayed them. That's all they did. They X-rayed them and said it's one skeleton. So
Yeah.
apparently there's a skeleton in there. So
But whatever.
uh,
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I feel like I'll talk. I'll really bring that into my interest once I see more peer reviewed, or if there is a peer reviewed study on it. Then we'll see. That's a. Oh, another interesting thing. People in Brazil or Peru say they're being. I think it's Brazil or Peru, but maybe Brazil.
I
Or
think
they
it's
say that they're being attacked by aliens. They're shooting lasers at them and burning their faces. This is a real thing. That tons of people are talking about it.
yeah.
The police are talking about it. There's videos. I just saw videos before got on here with you. I saw some video of what they said was an alien like scurrying up a tree after a bunch of people confronted it. But they said that people are legit scared about this shit. Like,
I mean, oh yeah. Peruvian village horrified by attacks from giant yellow-eyed aliens. I'm gonna look into that and see what it is. Prosecutors say illegal miners dressed as aliens attacked soldiers in Peru. So it's got your boy Ben Hansen talking about it too. So
oh really? Is he gonna go there? I
yeah,
hope he
yeah,
goes there
yeah.
and checks it out. I'd like
I
to hear
hope
what he has to say.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I honestly think he'll get down to the bottom of it because he's not one of those guys that like if he feels like something's false, I think he goes and finds out that it's false and will debunk it. So I kind of like
Yeah.
want to hear him. I want to see him go check it out and
Yeah. Me too.
get down to the truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's
All right,
getting
man.
late
You want to
here.
wrap it up here?
Yeah, it's 11:30 my time. My wife's probably like, "What the fuck you guys doing?" She probably went to sleep actually. But I'm getting tired anyway. But
Let
I'm
me
gonna
know.
sign off.
Let me know when you stop recording. Let me know when you stop recording, and I'll tell you
Okay.
what I was gonna say.
All right. Talk to everybody soon. If somebody's watching this out there, I know a lot of people don't really watch the whole videos, but I don't blame them. I don't watch a lot of people's videos anyway. So, but anyways, I had fun, and I enjoyed just looking at this stuff and talking about it. And if it gets people thinking and gets people talking, that's good. I think that's what I want to stir up. Is if anything results from this, I want more people to take these first claims that I made seriously. Like this, there's a good possibility that could be true, and start to look at things through another lens and look at it certainly made me think about the government differently. Like I mean I guess I had maybe more trust in it than I do now. But I'm gonna sign off here. Let me stop recording and